Welcome to Black Man Lab. We are live. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in on this Monday. We are excited about our topic today. Today, we will be discussing Black men discovering your passion in a world full of opportunities. So, we have some really great guests on today and looking forward to having a lively and productive discussion. For those that don't know, Black Man Lab was started some years ago by Brother Miley Davis and some of the brothers from Let Us Make Man. And it was just designed to allow a space for our sons to get information from other strong Black men. And whatever that information was, whether it was career related, whether it was self-development related, whatever. Because we know that sometimes our sons just get tired of hearing from us. So that's where it started. And today it's grown to the point that when we were live and we were meeting in person, we'd have up to 250 young Black men in the same space, getting great information from our panel of guests that we would have on a weekly basis. Now we're doing this all virtually via Zoom and over Facebook Live as well as YouTube Live. And we are here to try to still disseminate that information to our young Black men, and now even other people that are able to listen from across the country. So we are happy to do that. I am generally here with Brother Miley Davis. I don't know, is Miley on? I see you there, Miley. Can't hear. We can't hear you. There you are,
right.
brother.
What's up, brothers? How y'all doing, man? I'm excited about this panel, man, and Brother Joe Barker and Marty or Fred, whoever's gonna take it from here, man. I just wanted to jump on, man. You got some special brothers here that some of whom I know personally, others I've just heard a great deal about. I know Brother Fabian Williams, the artist, is gonna jump on at I think around 7-ish, and so will Tony Brown. He's finishing up an NBA, reffing an NBA game, and he's going to jump on as well. So, man, I'm just excited about being able to plug in, listen, and learn, and hear about brothers' passion. So thanks, Brother Marty, Brother Fred, and Brother Joe Barker for all that you're doing with pushing it tonight, man. It's going to be a beautiful night.
All right. Thanks, Miley, man. You on the road going down South Georgia, right?
Get ready to head out to Statesboro to fight the good fight.
All right, man. Be careful down there. Folks down there get a little crazy. So be careful, man.
Hey, America is crazy when it comes to black men and black people. So,
Amen,
you know, it's different.
No doubt, man. So every week we have some traditions that we do here at Black Man Lab just to get us in the right frame of mind and get us centered on the work that we're going to be discussing. So with that, one of the things that we always do every week is we bring in my brother Fred Parham to get us centered. And Fred, I'm gonna have you do double duty today, man. Can you both get us centered as well as do the libation, move right into libations as well?
Oh, Marty, man, you asking me a lot, brother. Yeah, I got you.
Appreciate you, man.
So look, man, I just want to shout out, take special privilege. I want to shout out to some beautiful senior citizens over in Decatur area of Covington Highway, who every Saturday, brothers and listening audience, every Saturday, these senior citizens, men and women, are out holding up their protest sign to Black Lives Matter. So I just want to shout them out, man, and tell them they set a great example and we won't let them down. But back to the work. So today, as we do as a tradition and ritual on the Black Man Lab, brothers, we're not going to abandon that tonight. I'll cover our libation, which is an ancient African tradition that you can find in many rituals and traditions, from religious to just community-based celebrations and such. A libation then is where we take water, but in this virtual space, we'll just facilitate it with our thoughts and words. We would take water and pour it on a living plant to acknowledge and honor our ancestors across time. And so in that honor, we start with our international ancestors, those Africans whose name we may not know, who but are part of our family line. Those Africans who died coming across on the Middle Passage, who chose to take their own life rather to live in bondage as a slave. We acknowledge those names of those international ancestors that we know. So let's take one name, for example, Patrice Lumumba, who was the president of the free and independent Congo. Nelson Mandela, Mama Winnie Mandela. So in three, when I count to three, I want you to say the name of an international ancestor that you know. On three and say Ashe. 3, 2, 1, Ashe. And brothers, you can join with me. Next, we'll acknowledge a national ancestor, one of those names of an ancestor that we all know. For example, the great Harriet Tubman or the great Frederick Douglass. So again, on three, this time we're gonna say Ashe twice. 3, 2, 1, get that name in your head. Ashe,
Ashe.
Ashe. Then lastly, we want to bring it down to our family level, and we want to say the name or think of the name of an ancestor who would approve and support us in our work in trying to reclaim the Black male image and breathe life into the Black males within the sound of my voice. A family ancestor for me, for example, would be Patricia Hatfield. So this time on three, we're going to say Ashe 3 times. Again, 1, 2, 3. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Oh. And then last, family and listening audience, we want to get settled. We want to get centered by taking 3 deep breaths on 3, 2, 1. Again, inhale deep, 3, 2, 1, and exhale. Brother
All right,
Mark,
Fred.
we appreciate you, bro.
Man, appreciate you. Thank you. It's important for us to be in a space that we are willing to accept the information, especially this esteemed panel is bringing to us tonight. So thank you for that, Brother Fred. I'm going to co-host this with Brother Joe Barker. Brother Joe, bring you in real quick, just to give a quick hello.
Hey, how's everybody doing tonight, man? Brothers, appreciate you guys being here. What a powerful panel, man. We have some great things to talk about. So, whether you are walking in your passion from, birth, you knew what you want to do, or you found it later in life. What we're here to talk about today, man, is just the great work that each of you all have been doing. A couple of you guys, I see you, Brother Kirk. I see VA. A couple of you guys I know personally, the great things that you're doing, and some of you guys, I'm going to learn a lot of what you're doing. So, we're here to talk about it in the village and get these young brothers to, start trying to understand what path you took and how you took it. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
All right, thanks, Brother Joe. With that, let's get busy and get right in here, man. What I would like to do is just go around for the panelists that we have. Give a quick introduction of yourself, what you currently do, and we'll dig deeper into it to really talk about your passions and how you got to where you're at. So with that, I'm gonna start with my man. We know him as the minister, Brother Dr. Ricky Jones. I've known Rick for a long time. He went to the Naval Academy with Maoli and used to make his way up to Howard when I was down at Howard. We have had some interesting times, let's just say that. But with that, I want to bring on Brother Ricky Jones. Brother Rick.
All right, it's Ricky Jones. I'm the chairman and professor of the Pan-African Studies Department, that's Black Studies, at the University of Louisville. When Maoli and Marty call, I always have to answer. So good evening, brothers. Glad to be with you.
Thanks for being here, Rick. Appreciate it. Brother Kirk Brown, give an intro.
What's going on, good brothers? Good to see you guys. Appreciate you, Joe, for the invite. My name is Kirk Brown, the Chief Development and Communications Officer for the Ron Clark Academy in Atlanta, Georgia. Glad to be here tonight.
Thank you, brother.
My man from Chicago. We go way back as well. Been knowing Vince for I can't say how many years, but has always been a stand-up dude and one of my favorite guys on the tables of all time. DJ Vince Adams.
Definitely great to be here. My brother's Joe. I've known Joe since I was 18 years old, and Marty, we go just about as far back as that as well. So fantastic to be here. DJ Vince Adams, international DJ, born and raised right here in, I'll say, sunny Chicago.
That sounds weird, right? Sunny
Right.
Chicago.
Hey, the sun is out. I'm going to claim it the few weeks we have left. Absolutely, brother.
All right. Appreciate you, BA. Brother Mike Ojo.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Mike Ojo. I'm an entrepreneur, pilot, and I have a career in general aviation. And I'm here to share my knowledge about that.
I want you to repeat that one time, Brother Mike. You are a pilot.
Right. I'm a private pilot, and I make content about flying, and I try to promote aviation as best as I can.
My man. Well, welcome. We appreciate having you. I just wanted to repeat that because you don't see a whole lot or hear a whole lot from young black pilots. So glad to have you here, brother. Brother Mario Reyes.
How's everybody doing? My name is Mario Reyes. I am an independent IT consultant with the government right now, working with naval intelligence, Medicaid services. As you can imagine, it's kind of right now COVID, and authorship. And I'm a newly minted author. My book is entitled "The Son with No Father is a Book with No Author," and I'm here to share.
All right, you breaking up a little bit there, but we'll come back to you. Thanks for being here, brother. Brother Osei.
How y'all doing, man? My name is Osei Kweku. I go by Osei the Dark Secret, media, TV, radio, and back in Atlanta, Georgia, and here to help assist and look forward to building.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate everybody here. Again, thank you. I'm going to jump right in. First question, really simple question. But before that, Joe and I, as we helped to try to get content and how we're going to have our subject matter here for Black Man Lab, we reached out to young folks. This subject matter was one of the things that they were really concerned about. How do I get to my passion? How do I get to, what God has driven me to do? What gets me there? Because so many of us, right? I'll raise my hand. Coming out of college or even in high school, we don't have a clue, especially as young black men, we don't really have a clue as to what we're supposed to do. We know what we would like to do, but we don't have a clue as to what we're supposed to do, right? Because it's what our passion is. Or sometimes we might know, but things take us away from it. Life gets in the way, right? You wind up working in corporate America. Again, I'll raise my hand. Joel will do the same. You wind up working in corporate America, and next thing you know, you're just chasing dollars and not chasing passions. We know that this group has a whole lot of passion. Okay, so I want to talk to you guys about that, and what got you to where you are. What was it that made you know that this is the work that you were supposed to be doing, whatever it is? So I'll open that question up and start with you, Rick. If you could just kind of tell us about how you got to where you're at.
Yeah. I don't think it's a set path, Marty. I think a lot of brothers and others would tell you that you kind of stumble on it sometimes. I'm a kid from the housing projects of Atlanta. I grew up in Carver Homes right there in Southwest Atlanta, and through a windy road, ended up at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis. And I wasn't necessarily bad at the military, but never felt, quite at ease, as mildly could tell you, and ended up, transferring to Morehouse College. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew I didn't want to be in the military anymore. And so I'm literally sitting in class my junior year at Morehouse, paying attention, to what's going on in a political science class, grammar politics. I'll never forget it. And the professor's a guy named Tobe Johnson. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I like to read. I like to talk and engage and learn. And this is this dude's job. And so I go up to him literally after class and say, hey, Dr. Johnson, I like to do what you do. I like to be a teacher. And he says to me, I'm the first person in my immediate family to even graduate high school. And he says to me, so you want to be a teacher, you want to be a professor? I say to him, what's the difference? And And he's like, you know, a teacher teaches K through 12, a professor teaches at colleges and universities. I said, well, I want to be a professor. And he tells me, well, you need to get the PhD, Jones. And I said to him, well, what is this PhD and how do I get one? And so this brother walked me through the GRE, applying, everything. I didn't know the difference between a PhD and a master's degree, man. I didn't know. I knew I was calling him Dr. Johnson and other professors doctor, but I didn't know why. And so I think a lot of times we kind of stumble on what I literally believe we're called to do certain things. And then we look out, you know, quite often, I think we'll hear a lot of stories tonight in anticipation of brothers running into older brothers and sisters who are putting them on that path once they kind of stumble onto it. So that's my quick little story.
Yeah, I think that the truth of it is, though, is that was in you, though, right? You knew that was that ability to be a teacher, professor was in you, and then you saw somebody that showed it to you. Like you saw, and you're like, yeah, that's me right there. I need to figure out how to get there.
But I didn't know it. I mean, that's just it. I think the title of this session is really interesting. Like, what is your calling, right? Not what you choose, but what is your calling? I mean, and usually we only use that term when we're talking about ministers. And you know, it's funny that my boys, you know, Mal and others, when we were in college at the Naval Academy, they called me Sinister Minister, like this calling. So I think people get calls, but they don't really know where that's coming from. I mean, I have a strong belief, you know, in whatever you want to call it, almighty, higher being, God, whatever. And I think that that's something that may be affixed to us and we have to find it, but I don't know if we know it at particular times. I think we can find it out later on, but I think there's some type of divine intervention that happens for all of us that puts us where we're supposed to be. And then it's up to us to, you know, resist it or embrace it, but we always circle back around to it.
And Ricky, I want to chime in on something right quick as we get ready to listen to the rest of the brothers, man. Ricky, I appreciate your transparency. That's huge because these young brothers listening are trying to figure out, so what I do. But as I saw your path, hey, you just asked a question. You made yourself vulnerable and you said, I want to do what you do. What does that mean? We'll get a PhD. So what's that? So vulnerability, that transparency, man, that's what the brothers do here. So that's great because everything is always laid out. Some of you guys are going to tell your story and it's something you've been doing since childhood. And that's great as well. But I love your transparency, Ricky. That's really, really refreshing, man, that some of the younger brothers are going to need to hear that because they don't know.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and we all don't start at the same place. I mean, as Mauli and Marty can tell you, my mother got pregnant the first time she had sex. I mean, she had me at 15 years old. I'm growing up being raised by a grandmother who couldn't read. So what do I know about a PhD? You know, so we all figure it out as we go along.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's keep it moving, man. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate that, brother. And I'm sure you'll be dropping more of your jewels here again. So thanks, bro. Brother Kirk, how about you?
Yeah, so discovering your passion, I think, you know, my story is a little different in terms of kind of growing up the whole time, all the way till I got to college, thinking I was going to study law and be a judge. Then I got to my first class, you know, poli-sci and things like that at Georgia State. And I was like, this ain't for me, you know? And so at that moment, I was like, am I going to try to follow a path that I've sort of been saying my whole life and that everyone else has sort of put on me? And like, oh, you got to be a lawyer, you got to be a doctor. Am I going to do that because everyone expects that for me? Or am I going to do my own thing? And so I decided to do my own thing and kind of switch my major and graduated and ended up in fundraising, where now I get to, you know, help people and, you know, build relationships and connections for students, I mean, for families and for individuals. But I didn't know what a fundraiser was growing up. That wasn't even, you know, a job option. It was doctor, lawyer, you know, and so forth. And so now being in a position where I get to, you know, connect with people and raise a lot of money and help families, like that's kind of been something that I just kind of stumbled across because people were in positions and they were able to, hey, what about this? Like, okay, cool, let me look at that. Oh, that's right up my alley. Like I enjoy talking to people, building connections and so forth. And so I think it's okay to pivot. Like if you think that you know what you want to do and then you're like, nah, I'm actually good on that. Let me figure out what I'm actually passionate about, what I actually want to do, and fall into that. And even if you're into that, I think at some point too, you can also evolve. You're like, okay, let me tap into another part of my skills. And so that's what I've been able to do too. So the communications piece and so forth, like I'm passionate about that. And so I've been able to tap into those skills as well. And so don't be afraid to pivot, but it also continue to discover those passions that you're, that makes you tick and fall into those as well.
And Kirk, I wanna just kind of supplement that with something. For selfish reasons, I really wanted you on here. As an educator myself, I'm in an environment that's populated teaching wise, 85%, white women. And it's funny, I've seen you have such great success as development and fundraiser. And that honestly, let's be real, that's a field that's dominated mostly by white women. As I look around and have been in education. So, how did that happen for you? Because we as brothers have such great ideas on how to start business and do this, that, then we don't never know how to get money for it. But here you are going into a field, meeting Oprah and letting Oprah know, hey, here's what we need to do for this organization. You're changing communities and families. What did that look like for you? Were there some obstacles and you're like, no, but this is what I know I want, so I'm going to overcome this?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think when I kind of, jumped into it and, as it became an option for me, I just kind of put my 100% into it. I went heavy in it as a, junior fundraiser, if you will, and kind of proved myself that I was, a hard worker and that I could do the job. I could connect with people and encourage them to give to a worthy cause. And so throughout that journey, I got a chance to be on different projects and be in big meetings with CEOs in the city and continue to bring in those checks where I was able to elevate myself in different positions in my first role. And so when an opportunity opened up where I am now, I'm 25, 26, and, it was a big position, but because I had done the work in such a, at a high level and that folks knew that I was a hard worker and I could show up, when I interviewed for the position, they were like, we need you. And so here I am walking into a position now, a young guy taking on a big role, head of a development shop and trying to continue the trajectory of the organization and take it forward. So, yeah, I mean, I would say no, like external obstacles. I would say internal obstacles for me, really just making sure that, I didn't have like imposter syndrome where I'm like, okay, I'm not really supposed to be here in this position, but nah, like I'm supposed to be here. I'm here for a reason. I have the knowledge and the skills to do it. And so let me continue to build on that. But I think, being a Black man, fundraising in general can be a challenge because, as you said, it's dominated by white women. Yes. And so as you are trying to, insert yourselves into different rooms to get those dollars, can be a challenge sometimes because you're like, okay, who's this guy, right? They're not used to seeing who, the type of person that you are in the room. And so, it's getting around those, I guess, those, preconceived notions, if you will, about who you are. And of course, you start speaking, you talking to numbers and you're talking to the relationships and all that. All those continue to go out the window. But, it's an ever evolving process, if you will. So.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that so much.
Gotcha. Hey, we're gonna move to another panelist is joining us here, and I want to give him a minute because he's got a bounce here real quick. So, brother Fabian, are you there?
Yeah, he's still there.
Hey, I'm here.
Hey there, brother Fabian. If you give yourself a quick introduction and then just kind of tell us about your journey into finding your passion.
Okay. I'm an artist. Through the work I've been doing, I've come to discover I've been an artist all my life, even though I've been reluctant to call myself that. I worked in advertising for about 13 years before I decided to become a full-time artist. I was actually a commercial artist in corporate America doing graphic design, websites, and things like that. And even though I've been drawing my entire life, growing up in a military town, Atlanta, and having a mother that worked at the a tire factory called Kelly Springfield, which later became Goodyear. Being an artist seemed like something that was kind of like unattainable because nobody in my family knew how to be an artist or how to make money as an artist or how to like what a career in the creative field would look like. So I kind of had to like make it up as I went along, and I just leaned into it and found a way to get to a point where I could actually make a living from it. One thing I know from just growing up in a town like Fayetteville is that there's not a lot of options that are given to young Black people in the creative field. I know. But what I learned from doing advertising is that advertising is visual art is one of the most powerful means of communication, and we're seeing it firsthand when we look at platforms like Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. Like those are visually driven platforms and are almost completely they're just tools for constantly create content. And that's pretty much what I used to do for a living. I basically created ads, drive people to buy products or to seek out services or go to an event. So I learned early how to communicate and get people to do things through images. And once I learned that, I mean, I pretty much was able to go in any direction. My latest direction is murals, which is what I'm most known for nowadays. But I have a whole nother path doing art shows and creative events through performance art. And I kind of feel like right now because, like for instance, our performance artist, and he's most powerful when he's just going off the top of the head, off of the crowd or the chaos. And because we're not educated, we don't see him for the charlatan that he is. So I feel like in Black college and youth and Black centers, we really need to like introduce creative practice to as many Black kids as possible, because it's just a power source that we are leaving untapped. And I can tell you just from, some of the stuff that I've done here has proven that visual arts is just really like an untapped source for, advancement. Like you don't go until you have an idea of where you're going. Like, you have a vision. I look at like visions as GPS for, for where you're going. Like if you try and put in like somewhere in GPS, it's not going to take you anywhere. But if you put in a descriptive area like a corner or an address, it'll give you the directions. And I feel like imagination is the same way.
Sure.
So.
Sure.
Say it again.
And I was going to say, I think that the whole piece of creativity is essential in us being able to connect to what our path is, right? And we as Black people are naturally creative, right? Because we have to be.
Yes.
We have had to be creative for history. So, what you're speaking to there talks about that level of creativity and then finding that path with it. So, for you, fortunately, it's also led to a career, a very successful career in what you're doing. So I appreciate that, brother. We'll keep it moving because we got a large panel here today, and we have a great subject matter, and we are already up against the clock. We try to have a hard stop at 7:45, so I want to make sure that we're able to touch with everybody. With that, I want to bring brother Vince Adams in. So Vince, I've known your history obviously since high school. You know, where you kind of was starting putting records together back in the day, and you know, it was clearly a passion for you. But tell us about that whole route and you getting to where you are today.
No, first I want to just give thanks to the Black Man Lab and definitely everybody who's watching, whether you're watching it live, whether you're watching it and playback. That's just what Brother Fabian was talking about, creating this content and having an outlet for people to connect. And, you know, Chuck Young, shout out to my man Chuck watching on YouTube. But let me just say this super quick. I always say that my story is like Dragon's Lair. You remember that video game back from the 80s where, you know, Dirk the Daring is on the horse and the light pops up and then you got to go that way and the light pops up. Like, I really haven't had long-term plans. It's like I see the light pop up and I go that way. And I see the light pop up and I go that way. So when I went to FAMU, very much like the first question, you know, when people ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? I wasn't like a fireman or a doctor. Like, I was like, I don't know. But if I get a degree in business, you know, I can work for a hospital. I can work for the NBA. I can work for a church. Like, I just knew if I got a degree in business, I could be okay. But I had no idea what I wanted to do. And it's just so ironic that Joe Barker is here. Shouts out to my man, Mike Brock as well. But Joe, and I know that Maurice is on the line as well. And their frat brother, because he wasn't mine at the time, walked up to me, Jeff Beasley, like 3 weeks after I hit the campus at FAMU and was like, man, my dean of pledges, and they all pledged together, so this is their big brother, is having a party. Would you like to DJ the party? And I was like, no. Because think about it. In the 80s, we didn't want to be Jam Master Jay. We didn't want to be LL. We didn't want to be Big Daddy King. You know what I'm saying? Like, we might have liked those guys, but there was no thought in my mind that I could ever get paid to be a DJ. Like, that wasn't any, I just was in my bedroom, head down, loving music. So that was my passion, was music. And when Jeff asked me, could I do the party? I said, no. And he was like, we'll pay you $50. I said, pick me up at 7. I mean, that was a deal. Like, I had no idea that I could get like 10 haircuts, 10 5-piece chicken dinners. I mean, we remember what $50 was back in '88. I mean, you were rich with $50. And, you know, Joe was at the party, Maurice was at the party, and they were like, man, you're good. Yeah. And, you know, would you like to do another party for us? And by the end of my freshman semester, first semester, I was one of the most well-known DJs on the yard. Fast forward 5 years, graduated, left my records at the frat house. I was like, all right, I'm on my way to do this corporate thing. Like, I was done with DJing. I mean, you know, I just kind of, you know, as it was shared earlier, you know, just kind of thought I was supposed to be on this track. And I'll fast forward all the way to 2008, where I'm at this point, I've been on BET, I've DJ parties for MTV, Essence Fest, but the DJ world is changing. And I'm like, I have to change lanes real quick. And even though I'm not from New York, I've never, you know, been on a rap song before. I want to do the type of parties that D Nice does. I want to do the type of parties that Kid Capri or Biz Markie does, but I can't charge as much as them. But I know the King's English. I pledged a fraternity. I went to a HBCU. I got my master's from a Jesuit college. I was like, I have a different lane than these guys where I can become the #1 premier DJ for professional Black educated folks. Like, you know, I know all the fraternities, all of the businesses. I was like, that's my lane. And little did I know that just a few years later, 4 years later, I would become one of the main DJs for the Obamas during their re-election campaign. And so that Dirk the Daring story leads me to 2020 when COVID strikes. And I say, you know what? Even though I can't physically be in a party, I can create an environment that makes everybody feel like they're in the same room. Like, I have this ability to reach out beyond the lens and integrate all of these decentralized individuals and put them in the same room. So when I look at Kirk, here's what I'm thinking is that if I'm an organization with a budget, I still need to reach people. Well, now that I'm a local organization or regional organization, I actually turn into a global organization as soon as I do something virtually online. So what I've been doing is turning my passion since 1988 and just kind of doing that Dirk the Daring thing of finding the next thing, finding the next thing, finding the next thing, and popping in. And that's what I've been able to do now, is kind of create this space as being probably the premier DJ in the virtual world for fundraisers, for galas, for, you know, parties, things that otherwise we couldn't do. You know, with social distancing, I've been able to do that in the virtual world.
And Vince, I think that's a great, you know, kind of message there that we're touching on, in that, you know, so many young folks are, you know, driven right now for, you know, being able to make some money, right? And they're always looking, you know, well, if I'm in college, go out, get a degree, get a job working for somebody, versus what you wound up doing. You know, you initially were on that path, but what happened is you got happenstance into your passion, right? Absolutely. You always loved music. That was always there for you, but it never probably, you know, was in your mind that this could be how I wind up making my money. And I think that that's a message that we need to make sure that everybody out there that's listening, all of our young folks, have that in their head, that if there is something that you really like doing, you know, that might be what you need to be doing. Just like Brother Ricky Jones was talking about earlier, he kind of worked his way into it, but the reality of it is he's always been a teacher. That's always been in him. We knew him when he was younger. That was in him, you know, and he wound up, you know, finding that passion and getting to where he was supposed to be. Yeah.
Marty, let me just say super quick, because I think that Kirk hit on something powerful when he talked about the imposter syndrome. The number one key to making money is being where money is being made. What I mean by that is, if I live in Chicago, I probably shouldn't start an ice cream stand in December. Money's not being made there. Right. But if you can be where money is being made and create a special niche, create a special level of value in that place, that becomes very powerful. So I just wanted to kind of share that a lot of people take their passion of like crocheting, and your places where people are naked and don't use blankets. Like that's not where, you know, your passion won't necessarily lead to dollars there, but if you can channel your passion into where money is being made, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's keep it moving. We got about 3 or 4 more folks we want to make sure we're touching on. We had somebody coming in new. Brother Ian Brock, I want to make sure that we bring you in and give us a quick little bit about you and where you're at.
Yes, sir. First off, I just want to say what a blessing it is to be on here, especially with my dad. So before, like when we first started, we actually co-founded a nonprofit organization called Dream Hustle Code. And our mission is to bring computer science, or access to computer science education, to kids who are underrepresented in the tech space, more specifically Black and brown kids. And so our journey kind of started back when I was 8 years old in 3rd grade. It actually started with my mom. See, my mom, she came across this video on Facebook that talked about computer science, and it was titled "What Most Schools Don't Teach." And she was super excited about it because it had a bunch of influencers in the tech space talk about their experiences, as well as a couple tech billionaires. And so she tried to get me to watch the video at the time. Mind you, it's 9:30 at night. I had a bunch of homework to do and I was really tired. And so I wasn't having it. I was like, Mom, I want to go to sleep. But I ended up watching the video anyway. And so my initial reaction to watching this video was, it kind of looks boring. And the reason I say this is because I saw nobody, and I mean nobody, who looked like me or who looked interesting to me, let alone the only individuals that were on the video, let's face it, were just white males. And so I couldn't really relate to them that much. But then all of a sudden, 2-time NBA champ, Mr. Chris Bosh, he came on and started talking about his experiences with coding and how he thought coding was cool. And so that actually, you know, my mom saw that there was a spark in my eyes, and she saw I was so like interested into him being on the video that I ended up watching the video over and over and over again. She said I watched it. We go back and forth over this all the time. She says I watched it 10 times. I say I watched it 3, but it's just the back and forth. It really just shows how engaged I was with the video, simply because I saw somebody who looked like me. And I believe in my heart that if Mr. Chris Bosh wasn't on that video, there'd be no way in the world that we would have started Dream Hustle Code in the first place, and no way we would have gotten as far as we have come today. So fast forward in 2013, December of 2013, we actually hosted, we decided to bring the code.org's Hour of Code event, which is basically just an introduction to learning how to code event, to my elementary school, Skinner North Classical on the north side of Chicago. And so we actually invited a school from the south side of Chicago to enjoy us. And it was such a great event that a bunch of my friends kept talking about it over the weekend. They even brought the coding lessons from the Friday that they learned out to their house. And so a bunch of parents started reaching out to us saying, what is this coding thing? Why are my kids so interested? And then a couple of them asked, what are you going to do next, since you built up all this, momentum and had all this positive feedback? And so that's when we decided to bring, or to create or co-found Dream Hustle Code, to really focus on bringing access to computer science to kids who are underrepresented in the tech space.
Can I take it from there?
Go ahead.
So 7 years in the game. I'm sorry, this is Michael Brock. I'm Ian Brock's dad. I know a few guys on this webinar right now. So 7 years forward, we've done several things in the computer science space, different events from Chicago to Wisconsin. Ian has grown in this space so much so that he's been invited out to speak at Google's headquarters on 2 different occasions. He's currently writing a book on success for kids based on our experience and seeing how Black kids react to computer science when they first come into contact with it. Many of them not having the belief within themselves that they're capable of learning computer science simply because they don't see a lot of people that look like them in that particular space. And so right now, with this book that he's writing, he's interviewed several billionaires, people like R. Donahue Peoples, Oprah Winfrey, Chris Bosch, Mr. Steve Harvey. He's got interviews coming up with Magic Johnson and Robert F. Smith, Brother Smith, as a matter of fact. So when COVID-19 hit, that gave us the opportunity, or gave him the opportunity, to go into action with everything that he's learned over the last 7 years with computer science. So he went virtual with it. And that thing has grown for the last 18 weeks. Now he's got kids on board from 28 different states, including Canada, the Philippines, and Africa. Right now, we're in partnership with McDonald's to expand that into a fall program and making it a year-round program with other offerings. So right now, the goal with everything that we're doing, and my entire family is involved with this thing right now. And when I say my entire family, what I mean is myself, my wife, and my son. The goal right now is to make sure that we onboard as many Black and brown kids into computer science as humanly possible, because right now it's the future. And I don't think from the travels that we've done, the conversations that we've had, that conversation is being had enough in our community. Computer science will never get, or technology will never get to the height that it can possibly get until it has the input from Black culture in America. There's just no way. And we've just scratched the surface. But I think there's a block there because kids don't see enough people in the space that look like them. And when I don't mean just engineers working in the space. What I mean is people who are really doing something very, very significant in the space. We're talking about the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Bill Gates, the Jack Dorseys. Once that happens, it's going to shift the thinking and the dynamic, the thinking of the kids in terms of what's possible for them. Then we're going to see an explosion. And that's what we're trying to get to right now by allowing Ian to do what he does, kids teaching kids. It's an amazing dynamic.
Mike, it's been an amazing journey. I've watched Ian for a long time. And Mike, I know you being the good brother you are, and obviously the wife being so supportive. It's been a beautiful journey. I want to hear a couple words from Mario, because I think he can kind of tie in that. But Ian, what I do want to also say is in a few weeks, probably a couple weeks, we're having a specific Black Man Lab topic on coding, because as Marty and I have polled the youth and the villages, that is something they want to hear about. And they want to see, okay, what does that mean? What's that look like? So we want to get a lot more in depth with that in a couple weeks. And I hope we can get you all back. I know, Ian, you're a really busy young man, but Mike, we'll be in touch so we can try and coordinate that, okay?
Absolutely.
Appreciate you all telling us a little bit about your path. Mario, if you could, man, I think you have an interesting path yourself. Tell us a little bit.
Well, thank you. I want to just say Thank you and congratulations to Ian. That was inspiring to Ian and his dad. Dream Hustle Code is actually sounds like exactly what I wanted to implement when I got out of the military. I wanted to help close the digital divide in Baltimore City schools. So I worked with some STEM labs out there as a Unix engineer and now cloud administrator. And like he said, there's not enough representation of us in the tech sector that are really making enough noise that would inspire just groupthink of children to come into it. We have the collective intelligence of mankind at our fingertips, and we use it to go on Instagram and as a distraction instead of as the true utility that it is. So I definitely want to give it up to you guys. As far as my passion and my path, honestly, I grew up in the Bronx and didn't have a path. I graduated high school with a 1.8 average. I didn't see much college in my future, so I joined the Air Force in '99, and they're the ones that educated me on technology. And since I extracted about $400,000 worth of education from them and used all of what they poured into me to follow my true passion, which has always been poetry. So I noticed that no matter what stage of life I was at, I would talk to either my peers or children about what success looks like. And success, as the young man said earlier, is not a linear path. It's very winding roadish. But if you find something that you're successful at in one area, you could apply that to another one. So the same hustle, the same 12-hour shifts, the 16-hour shifts I put in the Air Force, allowing myself to be on call, I applied those 10,000 hours to my poetry and to my authorship. And now we're just hosting father-son healing workshops as a partnership with my actual book to help bring the man out of the child and the child out of the dad, because fatherhood doesn't have to be as harsh and stoic as our fathers raised us to be. You're allowed to laugh and have a good time, you know what I mean?
Outstanding, man. Well, we appreciate that. And your path, I love your transparency on your path as well, that, you know, because like we said earlier, a lot of these young brothers may not know it. And Marty and I ourselves, we're like, hey, you know, we chase the bag to try and take care of families. But you got the military to say, hey, y'all gonna pay for this education. I paid my dues there, help me out. You knew your passion, but needed to find a way to get to it. And I got a lot of love for that.
I think as most of us could attest to, especially being second generation in this country, we're the center pole that holds up a very big tent, meaning nobody in my family has ever reached the amount of education or income that I've brought in. So I take care of a lot of people, and it's a very large wing. It requires broad shoulders. And that's cool, but you also have to take care of home first. Yeah. So before I'm investing in anybody else, I make sure I'm taking the money from that traditional career and applying it towards my purpose and my work. Like, as you can see behind me, I have artwork in my book by Mr. Charlie Palmer, who just had the July Time magazine, who just had John Legend's album. You know, that doesn't come if you're not willing to invest in yourself, which is the best asset you'll ever have.
Indeed, brother. Well said. Well said. We want to go on to Brother Ojo next and just kind of hear about some of the great things that he's done and how he got to that point.
Mike, aim high, baby.
How's it going? Thank you for having me. So as I said, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm also in the aviation community. When I think of the question that was posed was, how do you find your passion? And when I heard Brother Kirk and also Ian, shout out to you, Ian, that was so inspiring because I felt like you. I'm 31 this year, but I remember, you know, growing up how I just could not see anybody who looked like me in some of the desires that I had. I was always the kid that didn't fit in because I wanted different things, or I wanted to pursue different careers that you don't necessarily see somebody who look like you pursue. So, and then to what Kirk said earlier, something you said was passion. One thing I believe personally is that I don't believe in this idea of we have one calling, or we have this passion that we have to pursue. And I think when we buy into that, it holds us back. I think you should just go out and feed your curiosity, because when I think of what I did, that's pretty much how I got here. And I've tried different things over the years. I failed miserably at different things, and I've only been a pilot for 4 or 5 years. And when I decided to go do it, it's something I've always wanted to do. But guess what? Growing up in the Black community, even just speaking about it, it's not. You get turned away from it. I remember one time I wanted to be a NASCAR driver. They're like, dude, that's not for you, man. Whenever I would mention anything about flying or airplanes, the same thing. So I think part of that was growing up and getting out of my environment. And that's why I always encourage people to travel, even if it's not to another country. Just travel to your downtown area. Travel to different parts of the state that you're in right now. There's so much you can learn outside of the block or within the same county that you grew up in. So when I think of my story, it was just feeding a desire. I have so many different things that I want to try, and oftentimes a lot of it scare me. It scares the hell out of me. But I always say lean into the fear. And when I did decide to start flying, I remember I read about a 15-year-old Black girl in Compton that flew around the country with one of the Tuskegee Airmen. And I said to myself, no more excuses. That was it for me. I was 24, 25 at that point. And I said, look, she did it. There's no more excuses for you not to. And that same week, I went to a flight school. I took a demo flight, and now years later, it's turned into, I've basically made a life out of aviation, and I'm not even a commercial pilot. What I do with flying now is just promoting aviation in general. And just like Ian said, even still, whenever I'm in a room, I'm usually standing out. And I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing. Again, when I go back to my childhood growing up, oftentimes you have our community, they're not interested in certain fields because they just don't see themselves. And like I said, I'm 31 this year, and still today, I have yet to see a Black pilot. And I travel a lot. But within the general aviation community, you do see a lot of brothers and sisters in those fields. And that's what I want to do. Like, even with the content that I create, I don't say, hey, look at me, I'm a Black dude, you need to follow what I'm doing. Just the fact that I'm putting myself out there and I'm being vulnerable, I know that people who look like me are going to see that and see that I can do it. And I'm not flamboyant or anything. I'm the average Joe. I didn't grow up in a rich family or anything like that. So I want people to be able to relate on that level. And so my thing is to find your passions, not just one passion. Just feed your curiosity and get out there, man. Get out there and learn about people, learn about different things. And oftentimes when you do that, you'll figure something out that you actually like doing.
Man, I appreciate that. And I love one thing you said, well, all of what you said, but something you said, and Ian kind of said it, but kind of in different ways, is leaning into the fear, brother. That's powerful, man. I appreciate that. Lean into the fear. I love that. Osei, man, we I don't want to say we saved the best for last, but Osei, man, we can't wait to hear from you, brother. What you got for us?
Man. Thank you, man. Well, listen, first and foremost, man, I commend all the brothers, man, that have spoken. I found it to be very inspiring, and obviously iron sharpens iron. So to everybody that's witnessing this, that's what I think it is just being in the room with some upwardly mobile brothers who are doing their thing. But my story is a little different. I'm first generation in this country. My family's from Ghana, West Africa, so I come from a place where everybody is. You're supposed to become an engineer or a physician. My father's a physician. My stepmother's a nurse, and she happens to be, born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. So I feel like I had a really unique experience when it comes to the African-American experience. My mother is in Canada. So I say all these things to say that I was kind of always the odd man out growing up. I didn't always really feel like I didn't necessarily feel like I fit in when I was raised, coming up in the U.S. And so I kind of stumbled into what it is that I chose as a career. I thought I was going to be a physician. I masqueraded a little bit in that capacity. I went to Hampton University, and I pledged, fraternity. I was trying to really understand where my talents fit, and I didn't necessarily at that time really know how to use my voice. I felt like, and shout out to Howard University. They got the good brother from Kenya over there that said he's coming, he's gonna make his way. So, I was just proud. And I think that one of the things I've heard, one of the recurring themes is representation. Yes. And being able to see yourself represented. I come from an era where I like to always tell people I was African before it was cool, and I was African when it wasn't cool. And so, and not necessarily by choice, but because I couldn't deny my name or, who I was, just because, there was no way, even when I wanted to be like, hey, I'm like everybody else. It just wasn't happening. But I'm thankful for my overall experience. And I love what's happening. I love the brothers going back to the continent and connecting, because it's everybody's home. And the more of us that really understand that, the better off we'll be. But I wanted to provide a voice in media. I wanted to change the perception of Black men. And I'll take you back to a time when O.J. Simpson was on the cover of Newsweek, I believe it was, and they darkened his image. And it was interesting to see that happen, because I knew that even at that time, prior to us, obviously in 2020, everything that we've experienced with George Floyd, God rest his soul, and so many other brothers, in that list, unfortunately, I knew that there was this constant fear of who we were as a people, and we needed to change that narrative. The media, the news has always characterized us or mischaracterized us as savages and beasts. And, us not knowing who we really were has also impacted the way we see ourselves and the way we treat each other. And so, for myself, I came into media, and I was probably the first brother, in this capacity to really acknowledge being African. That was always my calling card when I came into the business. And one of my earliest memories, actually, a gentleman who was he's a mentor of mine, and he happens to be Caucasian, but he wanted me to change my name, and it was a Kunta Kinte moment for me. Wow. And I couldn't do that. And I say that just because, he probably didn't know what he was really saying, but for me, it was a real defining moment in terms of what direction am I going to go? Because again, I didn't come into the business necessarily knowing. A lot of people, I was a psych pre-med major. So a lot of people were like, how'd you get on? I interned for Donnie Simpson, and I hustled my ass off to get to a place where, I could create a career. And so, I just find myself to be very fortunate. I don't believe that there's anybody that's necessarily self-made. Somebody's always holding the door for you or opening a window for you to come through and saying, come on. And I feel like the ancestors have really cleared a path. And, what I was able to do in the business was really open up Afrobeat on terrestrial radio. So I brought WizKid to Akon. That didn't really work out, but that's what opened WizKid up to the American market. And, I did that with the help of a number of brothers. And so even listening to, DJ Vince Adams and just hearing his story, I love that because like he said, it's a series of lights, and you have to be in tune, and you have to be looking for the paths. It's almost like, it reminds me of the book, Choose Your Own Adventure. And I feel like with that, you have a series of cues that you have to be in tune with to necessarily for you to really kind of find and define your own path and blaze your own trail. So, that was kind of my story in terms of how I really came up in the business. And I've been fortunate. I came back to Atlanta, the V103, to really launch the international station. And a lot of things that we're doing now were things that I had expressed to them over 10 years ago. And, that's pretty much been it. That's the condensed version, so to speak, of my story there.
There's a lot that you dropped there too, brother. that feeling of not being connected or not being seen, right? You know, you guys, you were talking about it as being an African, but the truth is that that's us, right? Us as Black men, that's us in America, period. You know,
Sure.
we're always in the room seen in a different way than everybody else. It's just the nature of what we had to deal with. But I think the key to what everybody's saying here tonight is having the realization that you have within you the same abilities that everybody else does, white, Black, or anything else. You have those abilities, and we so often get off track of you know, understanding that, and we think that we have to be in a certain box. But the reality of it is that all of you guys, you know, you talked about Vince, you know, moved into doing what wound up being his passion, being wildly successful. Everybody else in this panel doing the exact same thing. So I you know, really feel what you're saying and that touches me here, because
Yeah.
you know, as Joe and I talked about, you know, we're people that, you know, we didn't do that per se. We went into corporate America, and you know, we just had to go do what we had to do for our families, you know, versus being
Sure.
able to step outside that. But that's only because that's where our mind was conditioned to, right?
Can I say one other thing?
Mhm.
I just want to make sure, I just wanted to acknowledge it. You know, I know it's been a long time coming for, you know, both Africans and African Americans to connect. We are all related. And I want to make sure I say that, because it's very important that we know that, you know, I remember Maui telling me he was going to Ghana, and how excited I was, because I knew not only would, you know, be able to bring back to, you know, the States, but what he was going to be able to offer to the continent by going home. And I feel like we all need to do that, and I want to continue to see that. So, you know, I know we've had enough division amongst who we are as people of color, and it's a reckoning and a reconciliation in terms of us getting to a place where we understand, I mean, you know, the African in America and what that really means. So I definitely look forward to connecting with all the brothers, man, you know, saying indeed, it's some sharp brothers on this panel. And whatever way I can be of service, man, I'll certainly drop my information in there too.
Please do.
Absolutely, please do. And I'm going to open that up to everybody. Please, guys, just drop your information. Anything that you, you know, want to make sure that the public knows about you. So if you got any of the social media stuff, whatever, put it in the chat so we can put that on our website, and that way we have your information. Guys, we are up against the clock, believe it or not. It's crazy how time flies as we're having these kinds of discussions. But what I want to do, we do on a weekly basis. We always ask, what are your habits, rituals, and disciplines that kind of got you to where you are today? What are the things that keeps you moving? You know, every morning there's certain things I know that I do when I wake up in the morning that help me as a Black man here in America be able to survive and move in the right direction. So I know that each of you guys, just from talking to you, I know that there has to be some habits, rituals, and disciplines that you do on a daily basis that you know, keep you moving forward and keep you pressing forward. So I'll just move it around. If y'all can hit those real quick, I really appreciate it, because these are important for our young brothers that are listening in. So
I'm gonna jump in on that, Marty, and that's really, for me, it's a moment to moment thing. Like I've tried to develop daily rituals, and I'm consistent for 2 weeks here, 7 weeks here, 3 months here, and then, you know, kind of life happens. But moment to moment, man, it's the most important thing I learned while I was pledging is, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. Like, really, from a moment to moment basis, I don't go too far up and I don't go too far down. And just really keeping that even flow in everything that I do has really made the difference. And I learned that at 20 years old, spring 90.
So we say flow. What do you mean by that?
No, flow. I'm saying I'd never go too far up. I'd never go too far down. I just keep an even flow. Yeah.
Yeah, you got you. Very good. Brother Rick.
For me, what I found was, well, one cat told me in college, man, one of my frat brothers actually, yo to the brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi. He said, look, man, you're gonna spend the majority of your life at work and asleep. So get a career that you love and a good set of mattresses.
Wow.
So I spent a lot of money on some mattresses, man, over time, but a career too. But beyond that, though, daily, Marty, and you know this, I try my best to keep deep bonds with the friends. I think the two of the most overused words we have are friends and love. I think everybody think they in love, but they meet somebody and they cool with them for a week or two. And so that's overused. And the word friend is overused, but the people who are friends, who really, really love me, right? And I love them, I try to stay in contact with them because as Brother Vince said, those are the people I think who gonna keep you balanced. Those are the people who gonna, keep your head straight when you have great successes. And they're the ones who gonna keep your heart from breaking when you have great failures. And so if you stay close to the people that you love and that they love you, that's, I don't know what's more important in the world than that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Let's see, Brother Kirk, how about you? Habits, rituals, and disciplines.
For me, I think is probably two things. One, I say show up and show out. I'm always going to be one, or if not the sharpest in the room in terms of how I show up in a room. And that's going to, get me into so many different conversations and so many different, meetings and so forth. And so when I show up and show out, that provides me with a platform to then, speak and persuade and get folks to, to come on my team and to be a part of what I got going on. And so that's always been something that's been recognizable for me throughout my career. I think that's kind of propelled me in different spaces. So that's one. Then the other thing I think has always been true is just be good. Just be good. Be good to your friends. Be good to your family members. Be good to those who support you. Just be a good person overall. And I think that speaks volumes when people can't say a bad thing about you and they're always wanting to support you because you're a good person. I think that goes a long way. You can't find enough good people in this world. And I think if you're just good, you're just genuine with people, that's a game changer.
Absolutely. My grandmother used to have a saying, which was, don't cost you nothing to be good and nice to people, but it can cost you everything if you're not. Which is a true statement, right? Think about people in this world that come from a very negative space and how people stay away from them, right? But those that have a good energy and are good seems to find them all the time. I can see that in the brothers that we have here tonight. Brother Mario, how about you? Habits, rituals, and disciplines.
One of my Air Force first sergeants told me that I had great potential one time, and I said, thank you. He said, what you said thank you for, that means you have yet to do shit. And that was the chin check of a lifetime. He said, why don't you go start accomplishing things and I could start giving you valid compliments.
Wow.
So I've made it a point in my life to not just give lip service. The minute I say it out my mouth, I am now held accountable to anybody that was privy to me saying it. And I want them to take me to task and I'll deliver in a timely fashion. Always a half hour early.
Love that. Love that. All right, Brother Mike, how about you?
Daily practical things I do. When I get up in the morning, I bow my head. That's just cultural for me. Just say thank you for seeing a new day. I usually go for walks. Either later in the day, I always make sure I take a break and I go for walks. And never underestimate good music. And also, over the years, I've learned to be more outspoken about my feelings and emotions. I shout out to communities like Undugu, where normally I always keep things just closed in. So I've learned to actually talk about, if I'm having a bad day, I talk to my wife or I call somebody and I talk to them about it. That really helps me. And lastly, I show myself some love, man. Literally every day when I get up, I tell myself, you have unlimited forgiveness for yourself today. You're gonna screw up at something, but you gotta forgive yourself, before the day ends. So I show love in that way. And also I always make sure to just tell myself how proud I am, just for being here and for whatever little thing or big thing that I've accomplished. because I've tended to do that in the past where I don't stop to celebrate or just chill and see anything that I had done. So I always make sure I show myself love every single day. So that helps.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Self-love is what can keep us moving forward, brother. Appreciate that. Brother Osei, how about you?
Man, I got into yoga. I got into hot yoga. And I found that for myself, man, that was a game changer for me. It really helped to center myself and center my mind, man. And it's a practice that I love. I wasn't necessarily big on yoga at all prior to that. But one of my boys who played in the league introduced me to it and was like, yo, you need to really try this. And so, you know, that's something that I try to do as often as possible, at least 3-4 times a week. I think the heated aspect of it helps me to feel like I'm detoxifying and really, you know, just a lot more clear, but definitely got to get outdoors, man. I love being anywhere where I can connect to nature and near some water. So I try to do that as often as I possibly can. You know, working out is definitely key, but I just say that all the brothers have said some things that for me, I find that it's all about getting that balance. One of the things when I started trying to work, I was trying to all I knew was work, and that's all I knew, even from a family perspective, because it's like, man, you got to do this, you got to do that, and you can kind of take on some baggage sometimes from your family members, and maybe some of the examples, because I realized that, and I realized this a long time ago with one of my father's friends. She had told me she hated her job the whole time. She had a daughter that wanted to get in entertainment and was helping her, but that whole time she just hated everything that she was doing. And I know a lot of people who are going through that experience. So I think it's very important that you figure out what your balance is. And I think we're in an era now where, you can do and be anything that you really want to be. And you can, manifest so many other things other than just serving somebody else or feeling as if you're only in service to another person. I think it's important that, we also balance it out by giving back and figuring out how we want to give back, whether it's, whatever type of service you want to provide to others, because really, to me, that's the richness in life. And so, just trying to keep that balance, find that balance, and just do things that, allowed me to really tap in, man, and connect, man, with the ancestors. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you talked about yoga first. That's the hot yoga. That is a place where you wind up finding that balance because you have that time. And I'm saying that from experience. Brother Mowley and I, we had started doing it once I got down here to Atlanta. We started going to a hot yoga spot, and I needed it because I'm about as stiff as Ichabod Crane, so I had to figure out something. It's great. You're right. It's
no lies told, Marty. No lies told. Your crossover is cold. You got that crossover, but it's upright. It's like that.
I haven't been limber yet. So, but that said, when I was doing hot yoga, I was able to put my palms to the ground, after a period of time. So, unfortunately, COVID has shut our spot down. So, I can't get back in there. But it's a great place to get centered too, though. Because you can't do anything, you ever stretch and think things through. So appreciate that, brother. Lastly, but not least, young brother Ian, and your pops. So if y'all could give us, what's your habits, rituals, and disciplines that you both do?
He's pushing me to go first, so I guess I'll take it first. I think for me in the morning, that first thing is to make sure that I give thanks and praise. That's just a major part of what I do personally and what we do as a family. And I try to get into a group prayer with them. Like we have daily meetings or what have you. So we try to make sure that we start those meetings off with that prayer and getting centered in that way. Because honestly, when I look at this, and we didn't catch the beginning of the webinar, when I look at the journey, there's no way I thought I was going to be here. Nothing in technology, nothing dealing with computer science. I didn't study it. I didn't know anybody that was into it like that. So the journey of life, being open to what comes, is what brought me here. got me into what we're dealing with right now with the vision for the future that's way bigger than anything I could have ever imagined. And so I think that openness comes from trying to find that oneness with the Creator. And I think that's what's really guided my journey, in addition to exercise and meditation and all those things. But if I had to find a key thing, it's that morning prayer that really guides my journey each day and through the week.
I think for me, this actually, my journey into, I guess into personal development really started with my dad. He taught me everything that I learned with trying to do personal development, as well as putting me on to watching motivational videos from people like Mr. Eric Thomas, Mr. Les Brown, and others. But from coming from a perspective of a kid who's in Generation Z, who grew up in this world, I feel like it's pressure. There's different pressures. There's pressures for everybody, but there's different pressures for us when we grow up. I think one thing that a lot of kids struggle with my age is worrying about how other people view them and worry about what other people say about them. And that's kind of one of the things that I struggled with earlier this year and also last year. It's just worrying about what other people think of me and what their perception is. And one thing that I kind of learned, and I went through a journey on in the beginning of COVID when we were in quarantine, is I kind of understood how I kind of had to separate myself from my peers and really just take a deep dive and to figure out who I was. Another thing I struggled with was kind of dealing with that fear and being afraid of kind of seizing the moment. I remember this, the last time I played basketball in my AAU tournament with my basketball coach, Coach Davis. He told me one of the things that really stuck with me was you got to lose that fear. If you don't lose that fear, you're not going to be as great as you want to become. And so that really stuck with me. And so in the beginning of quarantine, I went on a spiritual journey where I had to find myself and kind of figure out, okay, who am I? What do I need to do to be great? Because I already knew what to do. It was just all about finding the action steps and just executing it. So I learned a couple of things. One of the things that helped me keep myself sane was finding work, actually doing work, right? You tend to like diverge in different paths if you're not actually working. And so I figured out, all right, how do I schedule my day out and actually commit to doing the work with Dream Hustle Code? Another thing is from watching YouTube videos. When I went on my spiritual journey, one of the YouTubers I watched, she said that one of the best ways to find peace in your mind was just to sit out there in the sun, close your eyes, and kind of just clear your mind. That's another thing I try and do every day, if not every day, every other day, which I find is really just calm my mind, my body, and my spirit, and to become one with nature. As my dad said, the thing he said was, wake up, first thing you got to do is say your prayers. My dad is so vigilant about this. He doesn't even let me speak to him unless I say, give thanks to God and say my prayers. So he said, did you say your prayers? No, go back in there and say your prayers. So he does it every morning. But also another thing is kind of, I love what people said earlier about working out. I think that's super duper important because you tend to have a lot of built up, I don't want to say aggression, but energy, stress that you might not be able to release. And working out is just a great way to release all of that energy, whether it be negative or positive. And so all of this, I kind of found myself through this journey for like a couple months journey earlier in the year. And it's really helped me a lot, especially my dad. All the tools he taught me earlier, I've finally been able to actually apply it into my life instead of just hearing it.
Ian, sorry to cut you off, man, but how old are you?
I'm 16.
You what?
16.
Man, listen. A lot of what you just dropped there is a lot of what, finding what life is about and your passion is about, right? We especially as Black men you mentioned about that fear, right? That fear is what a lot of times keeps us from being able to move forward, right? We have this fear of stepping outside and letting people see us who we are. Like this environment that we're doing right now. Black Man Lab, we call it a safe and sacred space for Black men. This is a space where we are allowed to be ourselves, to express ourselves, to learn and take on all kind of knowledge that we possibly can, whether it's us as panelists or as people that are watching or participating when we're live. It's a space of one, love, and a space of knowledge, right? And so often we have this fear as Black men, and I'm not gonna do that, Right. But for you, man, my point is for you at the age of 16 to have this level of understanding and want and desire to continue to move forward and take on all this, that says a lot, brother. I appreciate you for it. Man, real quick, I'm gonna let Joe jump in here, and then we gotta wrap it up. We're way past our time already, but this is such a great topic and such a great panel. It's hard to cut us off. Joe, go ahead, jump in real quick.
Yeah, real quick. Let me just say this, man. Thank you to each of you. When we started this, the idea was, even when Marty and I were looking at panelists, like, man, I don't want to get 5 or 6 or 7 people on here that all say the same thing. And let me tell you, this has been one of our most diverse panels yet. A recurring theme that I did hear, though, and I love it, and I appreciate that our youngsters could hear it, is you saw out something because you didn't see it represented. Whether it's Ricky, and you probably didn't have that many Black teachers growing up, I don't know, but regardless, you saw something, you went after it. Kirk, 85+% of women in the professional development area, and you're like, that's what I want, and you've become amazing at it. Ian, I mean, it speaks for yourself. Ojo, all of you guys. Osei, like you said, I love how you said, you was African when being African wasn't cool. And I know I've seen that journey. It's not always been easy for brothers. We see it, we kind of joke about it now because we're in that space. But I was in engineering school at FAMU, FSU, and the engineers from Nigeria were just constantly made fun of, constantly ousted. And I was in a space like, well, dang, they rock with me, so maybe I should rock with them because they're making fun of them. So, man, I'm so grateful for everything you guys have offered and said tonight. It's strengthened me for sure. But the brothers that are listening, I know you dropped some amazing nuggets on them, and I very much appreciate that.
All right, thanks, Joe, man. Again, as Joe said, thank you to everybody here. Yes. When we get back live, we get back to doing this live and in person, I'm going to task each of you guys to show up when we're back live in person, because although we enjoy this forum because it goes across the country, there ain't nothing like when you got 250 Black men in the same room and have a topic matter that everybody can grasp on, and then also the level of connections that we make in that room as well. So I'm going to task each of y'all when we get back live, because it's going to happen, that each of y'all are going to be there at some point, man. So I appreciate that. I'm going to wrap it up, man. When we wrap up every week, there was a sister that she's now an ancestor, and she was one of the leaders up in Cobra, and her name was Sister Njiri Algani. She did every session that they had, every meeting that they had, they wrapped up with, held hands, and did a thing called "I'm a link in this chain." We do that same thing with Black Man Lab, because we know that we are links in each other's chains. We know that together we are stronger, and if we are locked arm in arm, that we can get through anything as Black men, right? So what we ask is that everybody, if you take yourself off of mute, and then act as though we're linking our arms up here. All right. And if everybody could just repeat after me. I'm a link in this chain.
I'm a link in this
chain.
And it won't break here.
And it won't break here.
I am a link in this chain.
I am a link in this chain.
And it won't break here.
And it won't break here.
We are links in this chain.
We are links in this
chain.
And we won't break here.
And we won't break here.
Ashe. Brothers,
Ashe.
Thank you. I appreciate you all so much. Time flew by tonight. It went by much faster than it seems like it normally does, man. I think it's because we had such an impressive panel and such great stories, man. But we will continue to do this. I'm sure that we'll have some of you guys. We talked about you, young Ian, having you back on. We talked about coding. Vince, we're gonna do another one on music. Rick, we're gonna do something on education. So we'd love to have you guys, all of you guys, back in at some point, man, for other topics that we have, man. So thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. All right, that's it. Much love.